There are some stories that they get under your skin.
Hmm.
The kind you hear about once and years later you're still thinking, wow, did that really happen?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one we're diving into today is pretty much the definition of that. Think about this. Thanksgiving Eve, 1971.
Right, holiday travel time.
Exactly. Everyone's heading home, that kind of vibe. And then just, boom, out of nowhere, the only unsolved air piracy in commercial aviation history kicks off. It's just wild to even imagine.
It really is singular. I mean, think of all the flights since then, all the security we have now, that this one incident is still a complete blank. It says a lot.
Yeah.
Highlights the sheer, audacity of it. And maybe, just maybe, some unbelievable luck wrapped up in this whole D.B. Cooper enigma, that name. It's basically shorthand for pulling off the impossible now.
Totally. And the information we've pieced together for this, it paints this picture of an event that was incredibly bold and, honestly, kind of captivating.
That wasn't just random chaos.
No. It feels planned. Meticulously, almost. It all started on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. Portland to Seattle. A short hop, right? A normal evening flight.
That's exactly what everyone expected. Just a routine run up the coast. And then this guy bought his ticket under the name Dan Cooper. He just walks onto the plane.
Feels like the start of a thriller movie.
It does. The mundane suddenly twisting into something else. So our mission today, for you listening, is really to unpack the key details here. Look at the theories, the evidence, or lack thereof.
And trying to figure out why this story still has such a grip on us.
Yeah, exactly. Why the fascination endures.
Okay, so let's dig in. Dan Cooper buys a one-way ticket, Portland to Seattle.
One way, that detail alone.
Yeah, it kind of flags something immediately, doesn't it?
Mm.
Suggests he wasn't planning on coming back, at least not conventionally.
Mm-hmm.
And the description.
Mm.
Well-dressed Caucasian guy, mid-40s maybe, about 6 feet tall, dark suit, white shirt, briefcase. Sounds almost forgettable.
Blends right in, which, if you're planning something like this,
It's exactly what you want.
precisely. Avoids any attention beforehand. And that briefcase, of course, becomes pretty central later.
And he orders a drink, a
Yeah.
bourbon and soda,
Yeah, adds to that image of calm. Just another business traveler, no obvious signs of stress.
until shortly after takeoff. That's when it all changes.
Yeah.
He hands a note to Florence Schaffner, one of the flight attendants,
And not in a dramatic way, apparently. Just passed her a note.
quietly. But the note itself, whoa, bomb threat,
Yeah.
demands $200,000 and 4 parachutes. The contrast between the calm delivery and the message, it's chilling.
It speaks to incredible control, doesn't it? Not panic, not shouting, he's dictating terms, but calmly. It suggests, a lot of forethought, calculation.
Definitely. The specific money amount, the
Yeah.
parachutes, those are his leverage points.
Mm-hmm.
So the plane lands in Seattle, and amazingly, the authorities actually comply.
They deliver the cash. $200,000.
Right, in 10,000 unmarked $20 bills. But, and this is important, they recorded all the serial numbers.
Crucial detail for later, yeah.
And they give him the 4 parachutes he asked for. In return, he lets 36 passengers and 2 flight attendants go.
A calculated exchange. Reduces the number of potential hostages, simplifies his control over the situation, keeps the essential flight crew and 1 attendant, Tina Mucklow.
Right. But let's circle back to those demands. 4 parachutes. Why 4?
That's a really good question. Like you said with the one-way ticket, it feels strategic. Was he thinking of taking a hostage?
Or maybe, was he worried they'd give him duds? Like if he demands 4, maybe he assumes at least 1 or 2 will be functional.
That's a very plausible theory. Ensuring he got usable gear, it definitely makes you think about his mindset, the contingencies he might have considered.
And then there's the other big thing. He knew the Boeing 727 had aft stairs.
And that they could be lowered in flight.
Yeah. That's not common knowledge, is it?
Yeah.
Your average flyer wouldn't know that.
Absolutely not. That piece of knowledge is huge. It suggests real familiarity with that specific aircraft.
So not just some random guy. He likely had some aviation background or did some very specific homework.
It strongly points that way. Either direct experience, maybe working on or around planes, or incredibly focused research. It lifts him out of the random desperate act category.
Okay, so Seattle exchange happens. Plane takes off again. Destination, Mexico City, supposedly.
As per his instructions.
But they don't get anywhere near Mexico. Somewhere over southwestern Washington state.
During a nasty rainstorm, by all accounts.
He likely goes to the back, lowers those aft stairs, and just jumps into the dark, stormy night with $200,000.
It's an incredible image, isn't it? Just leaping into the void.
Truly audacious, almost unbelievable. And the FBI's initial thinking.
Was that he almost certainly didn't make it.
Right, the conditions were terrible. He was wearing a business suit, loafers.
Not exactly skydiving attire for rugged, remote terrain in a storm.
Plus, the parachute itself was apparently a pretty basic, non-steerable military type.
Yeah, putting all that together, the odds of survival seemed vanishingly small. Fatal jump seemed the most likely end.
And for almost a decade, that felt like the answer. Until 1980.
The money surfaces?
Yeah, a kid finds a bundle of cash, like decaying $20 bills, on the banks of the Columbia River.
$5,800 worth.
And they check the serial numbers.
And they match the ransom money. Bingo.
Suddenly, everything changes. It's the first real, concrete clue. It puts him, or at least the money, near the Columbia River.
But it throws everything else up in the air again, doesn't it?
Totally. What happened to the other, $194,000?
Did he lose it jumping? Did he stash it? Did he survive long enough to spend any of it?
And if that bit of money survived almost 10 years in a riverbank, what does that say?
Exactly. It just opens up a whole new Pandora's box of questions. Survival maybe wasn't so impossible after all.
Right. And this discovery really pours fuel on what people call the Cooper vortex.
This endless debate. Did he make it? Didn't he?
The fact that only a little money turned up, it lets people imagine all sorts of things. He lost the rest, he hid it cleverly, he got away clean and lived off it somewhere.
But maybe he did have skydiving skills we don't know about. Maybe accomplices on the ground. These alternative theories, they just persist. Despite the FBI's initial logical take, I think people want to believe he pulled it off, you know?
The romantic notion of the perfect crime?
Something like that. The lack of hard evidence just leaves so much room for imagination. That's key to why we're still talking about it.
So who is this guy? The description from the crew. Mid-40s, 6 feet, dark hair, maybe an olive complexion. Business suit.
It's pretty generic, unfortunately.
Yeah, it must have made the investigation incredibly tough.
Oh, absolutely. And the FBI threw massive resources at it. The investigation, codenamed NR Jack, it went on for decades.
Decades.
One of the longest, most exhaustive in their history. They looked into, over 800 potential suspects?
800, wow. That's staggering. Shows how few leads they really had.
Exactly. Sifting through hundreds of possibilities, hoping for that one connection that sticks.
And some names do keep popping up in the lore, don't they? Like Richard Floyd McCoy Jr.
McCoy's interesting. Pulled off a very similar hijacking just months later. Same plane type, similar demands.
Seems like a strong candidate, but the FBI ruled him out.
Officially, yes. Based on physical description differences between the witnesses in the two cases.
That's always a but with Cooper.
Right. Recently, I think some folks found a parachute on property his family used to own. With modifications, some people think match Cooper's potential setup.
Huh. So even now, decades later.
The McCoy theory gets new life. It shows how persistent these threads are.
Okay, another name. Kenneth Christensen.
Ah, yes. Former paratrooper, actually worked for Northwest Orient Airlines.
Insider knowledge. Plus, there was some story about a deathbed confession from his brother, and he bought a house with cash soon after.
It's a compelling circumstantial picture, definitely. Ticks a lot of boxes. Skills, access, maybe motive, sudden cash.
Right.
But no smoking gun. No direct, undeniable link ever found. Plausible? Maybe. Proven? No. Just another tantalizing possibility.
And Robert Rackstraw. Vietnam vet, parachuting skills, criminal record.
Yeah.
Sounded like a movie character himself.
Rackstraw definitely played into the attention. He had the skills, the background. Some wild theories about CIA links even floated around.
Did he ever confess?
Not outright. But he certainly didn't try too hard to squash the speculation either. Seemed to enjoy the notoriety, but again, the FBI looked closely and eventually ruled him out.
So many leads, so many potential guys.
Yeah.
All leading nowhere.
It's the pattern of the case. Intriguing possibilities that just evaporate under scrutiny.
But there is one piece of physical evidence left right there on the plane. Seems so mundane, but maybe it's not. The tie.
Ah, the black J.C. Penney clip-on tie, yes.
Seems so ordinary. A clip-on tie.
But it's yielded some fascinating clues, hasn't it? There was a partial DNA sample.
Though not enough for a match back then. Maybe useful someday.
Potentially, yeah, as technology improves, but maybe even more interesting were the microscopic particles embedded in the tie fabric.
Metal particles.
Specifically, traces of pure titanium and a rare type of stainless steel alloy.
Okay, wait. Titanium and stainless steel, where would you find that kind of stuff commonly back then?
Well, one obvious place is the aerospace industry.
Boeing. The company that made the 727 he hijacked.
Exactly. Or maybe subcontractors working for Boeing, places like Crucible Steel, which handled specialized metals.
But the tie might literally tie him to building planes.
It's a strong possibility. The forensic work on that tie was incredibly detailed. They examined something like 100,000 particles under microscopes. Finding those specific metals wasn't random.
Wow.
It really suggests a potential professional background for Cooper, even if it doesn't give us his name. A tantalizing clue, for sure.
So Anor Jack runs for over 40 years, hundreds of suspects, this tie clue, and still nothing solid enough to close the case.
It's pretty incredible, the sheer effort involved, all those agent hours, interviews, forensic tests.
And the initial search itself must have been a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. They weren't even sure exactly where he jumped. The estimates of the plane's speed varied, the wind conditions were rough, they didn't know exactly when he deployed the chute.
It's like looking for a needle in like a whole mountain range, in the dark, during a storm.
A very apt description. A vast, rugged haystack, indeed.
So then, in 2016, the FBI basically says, okay, we're moving on.
They announced they were redirecting resources from the active Cooper investigation, acknowledging that after 45 years, they hadn't found conclusive evidence.
But they didn't completely close the door.
No, they specifically said they'd still look at any credible physical evidence that might turn up, like the missing parachutes or the rest of the money.
So it's officially inactive, but not forgotten.
Right. It's sort of an admission, isn't it? Either Cooper's plan was incredibly effective, assuming he survived.
Or it was just unbelievably bad luck that no definitive trace was ever found if he died out there.
Exactly. Either way, he or fate beat the investigation.
And weirdly, despite this being a serious crime, hijacking, extortion, endangerment, Cooper's become this kind of folk hero.
It's a strange paradox, isn't it?
Why do you think that happened?
Well, you have to remember the context. The late 60s, early 70s saw a lot of hijackings, but many were political.
Right. To Cuba or elsewhere.
Cooper seemed purely motivated by money, but the way he did it, calm, polite, apparently meticulous, and then he just vanished, beat the system. There might have been this undercurrent of, anti-establishment feeling at the time, and here's this guy who pulls off this audacious thing against the government, the airline, and disappears. It captured the imagination.
The ultimate vanishing act.
Yeah, the polite bandit who got away. There's a certain romance to that, however misplaced.
And that fascination definitely fueled popular culture. Books, documentaries, movies.
Oh, constantly. He's a fixture, a true crime legend. The mystery keeps feeding it.
It really is part of our shared, cultural mythology now, this unsolved puzzle.
And the irony, of course, is that this one crime led to massive changes in airport security worldwide.
Right. Reinforced cockpit doors. Better screening. A direct result.
So, in a way, his actions had a huge lasting impact, just maybe not the one he intended.
So here we are, decades on. Still the only unsolved air piracy in U.S. history.
Mind-boggling, really.
We still don't know who D.B. Cooper really was.
Yeah.
We still don't know for sure if he survived. And almost all of that $200,000 is just gone. Poof.
It's the ultimate cold case, no final chapter. And maybe that's why it still grabs us. The lack of resolution just invites endless wondering, keeps the legend alive.
Definitely. And maybe on that note, here's something final to chew on for everyone that's listening. Think about those metal particles again. Titanium, stainless steel, on the tie. Does that really narrow down his background to aerospace? And if you accept that, how does it change how you picture Cooper, his life before the flight, and maybe even after, if he made it?
It adds another layer, doesn't it? Was he a disgruntled Boeing engineer? A skilled factory worker? Someone else entirely who just happened to work around those materials?
And maybe think bigger, too. What does our enduring fascination with this specific guy, this specific crime, say about us? About how we view mystery, authority, maybe even escape. Just something to ponder.